pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight downside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
And good evening, and if it seems like we were just doing this for another rocket, that would indeed be correct. Earlier this morning, we were down in Florida at the Kennedy Space Center for an attempted Starlink mission, and now we are joining you to bring you all coverage of the NG-14 Cygnus flight, cargo resupply mission up to the International Space Station from Northrop Grumman. Just before we came on air, we had a little bit of a deja vu moment that seems to be cropping up, where there was a brief problem with a piece of ground support equipment that was providing intermittent telemetry back to the control teams, but they were able to successfully and automatically recycle that without having to send anyone back to the launch pad. So everything now remains on track. There are no technical issues being worked at this time and no weather constraints being monitored. It is, in fact, a nice clean board for the Antares rocket, now 34 minutes and 47 seconds away from liftoff. This mission is, of course, named after NASA astronaut Kalpana Chawla, who flew 2 Space Shuttle microgravity research science missions for a total of 31 days in space. She was also, of course, one of the 7 astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia for the STS-107 mission when it did not make it home to Florida. There were many reasons why Northrop Grumman chose Kalpana Chawla to honor in this regard. First and foremost, she was a scientist and a person who dedicated her life to the pursuit of space sciences and how that benefits life here on Earth. She was also the first Indian woman to reach space. And for a very large variety of reasons, that is why Northrop Grumman chose to name this craft after her. As they do with all of the names they choose, they asked the family if they were okay with the name choice, and the family was very, very supportive. That's all according to Frank DeMauro, a senior person up in Northrop Grumman, who I spoke with last week about this particular mission. So a great name and supported by everyone involved. Right now, Antares, the first stage of Antares is being fueled with RP-1 kerosene and liquid oxygen. Its solid propellant second stage is all ready to go as well, and you can see the rocket venting some of its gaseous oxygen there as the fueling process wraps up. You can also see up toward the top, you can see the yellow hose that goes up into the payload fairing, providing cool air and conditioning to keep the temperature inside of the payload fairing at the adequate levels that Cygnus needs before it begins the ride uphill. And a ride uphill, it is hopeful, is what we will get today from the Antares rocket here, launching from Pad 0A at the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport on Wallops Flight Test Facility in Virginia. For those of you in the Mid-Atlantic region, including up toward New York and Boston areas, if it is clear with the cold front that has just come through and pushed out to sea, if it is clear, there should be some pretty good viewing opportunities along the eastern seaboard today. So if it is clear in your area, go out and look. The Carolinas as well, go out and look northeast up toward the Virginia coastline, and Antares should be visible coming over the horizon during its flight today. So I will be with you here all the way through a successful orbit insertion is what we hope the culmination of our activities are here today. This is a mission that has been many months and many years in the making for Northrop Grumman. It is the 3rd flight of the CRS-2 round of contracts for NASA's commercial resupply services endeavors with private companies. Northrop Grumman bid their Cygnus resupply vehicle again for CRS-2, offering some upgrades to the system, including the ability to launch a few hundred kilograms of additional payload that an objective that was achieved by actually strengthening portions of the Antares rocket itself, so that the RD-181 engines down at the base of the vehicle do not have to throttle back or throttle down as the vehicle goes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. And by allowing those engines to maintain full throttle throughout the full flight regime, or most of the flight regime as they head through max Q, they're able to get a good propellant boost. They also bid an external cargo-only Cygnus vehicle as well, but NASA so far has given permission to proceed with all 6 of the originally contracted CRS-2 contracts for Northrop Grumman. All of them are pressurized Cygnus vehicles like the one launching today, and all of them have a payload capacity that is capable of being launched by the Antares rocket. As part of the CRS-2 round of contracts, the Northrop Grumman also bid the opportunity to launch this vehicle on an Atlas rocket if NASA wanted additional payload inside of Cygnus, but NASA has decided that they do not need that at this time. So all of them are proceeding forward as regular pressurized resupply missions. So let me know where you are all watching from in chat, and let us know if you have any questions. Go ahead and tag us at NASASpaceflight. That does help us see the questions as they come in, and help us keep track of them as we move through the night. So, I'm just going to pause and listen to the net real quick. All right, so everything is still go here 30 minutes prior to the planned liftoff. They're saying over the communication net right now, and they are polling the team right now for the go to do the power on and power off. To do the final power on and
FSO.
arm of the flight termination
FSO's go.
system for the Antares
Ops
rocket.
1.
This is the
Ops 1 is
system
go.
that would destroy
Direct 2.
Antares if it
Direct
veered
2 is
off
go.
course for some
We are
reason.
go
which
final
we hope
FTS
doesn't
power on
happen.
and arm command test.
Yes, if you've got
FSO step 354.
if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them up in chat. Again, tag us at NASASpaceflight. It really does help us see those questions very quickly.
The launch
as
conductor
they,
at Wallops with an intermediate.
But before we do that, want to say a shout out to some of our members who have given who have sent some super chats along. Moldy Space Industries, a regular on our streams, a wonderful regular on our streams, saying howdy everyone. Let's hope we get a launch this time. Only thing I want to hear going south should be the new toilet for the ISS crossing the descending node. A wonderful toilet joke and orbital mechanics joke wrapped in one there. I'm not sure I could have done it better had I attempted, Moldy Space Industries. Thank you so much for your support. And Normal Universe here with $5 asking if this launch will be visible from New York. So yes, it should be visible from New York as long as the sky is clear. There is a wonderful viewing plot. Michael, I'm going to find it and drop it into chat, so hopefully we can get it up on the screen for folks here. Yes, there is one that they there's a viewing guide that they put out that should show you exactly when you'll be able to see the Antares rocket based on your location in the United States. We're going to find that for you, and there it is. Here we go, Michael. I'm throwing it up in Control Center right now. But yes, we'll go ahead and get that on screen, which will. But basically, what it is if you are in New York City, you can expect to see the launch starting about 150 seconds. So, 150 seconds would be 3 minutes or so. Just over 2 minutes, just under 3 minutes into the flight of the vehicle is when you should be able to see it in the New York area. Again, if the sky is clear. There it is. The CRS-14 visibility map. What this really means of looking at the satellite imagery is that it's probably Virginia and the Carolinas are going to get the best view of this based on where the current cloud cover looks like it is. But definitely, if you're in one of those circles, go outside and see if you can see Antares as it heads out toward the International Space Station. I'm going to take some other questions here. We have Dougal asking, what is the weight of the cargo? An excellent question. The total mass of cargo heading uphill today is 3,551 kilograms, or 7,829 pounds. That includes, and actually this one goes nicely into the next question there. So that first question of the overall mass is from Dougal, and the second question from Weekend Astronaut is, what is inside of the Cygnus for this one? So of that cargo mass, there is a mixture of crew supplies, scientific equipment, and gear, spacewalking equipment, as well as some vehicle hardware, which includes the aforementioned toilet going up to the International Space Station, as well as fans, batteries, and consumables for Russia's Zarya module, or the functional cargo block of the International Space Station, as well as some computer equipment and then personal items for the crew, including some perishable food items that they requested be sent up to them. So that is what we have on board the Antares tonight. If the Antares does indeed lift off tonight during its 5-minute long launch window, it will rendezvous with the space station 2 days and 7 hours later on Sunday morning, where Chris Cassidy and Ivan Wagner on board the space station will use Canadarm2 to reach out and grab Cygnus and then berth it to Node 1, one of the common berthing mechanisms on Node 1 Unity. Of note, though, to your question, though, Weekend Astronaut, about to your question about what is on board, though, a lot of the scientific experiments that are on board will actually wait to be performed until after the crew rotation that's coming up, and the 2 crew rotations, actually. So shortly after Cygnus arrives on Sunday, we have the planned 14th October launch of the Soyuz MS-17 mission with 2 Russian cosmonauts and a NASA astronaut up to the space station. And then just over 14 days after that, we have the Crew 1 mission launching 4 more people up to the International Space Station. So a lot of the science that is on board Cygnus has to wait until the US side of the station gets back up from just 1 crew member, which it has been in since the Demo 2 mission ended in the beginning of August. Right now, Chris Cassidy is the only US segment crew member on board the station. And when Soyuz MS-17 launches, Dr. Kate Rubins will become the sole US crew member on the station for 2 weeks until the Crew 1 vehicle arrives up there. So most of those science experiments will wait until after the crew rotations are done and everyone is up there, so that they have enough crew up there to do all those science experiments that are launching today. And what's really cool, too, about this Cygnus, and goes toward what is inside, this Cygnus is actually configured to allow it to function as an additional science module aboard the International Space Station while it is berthed. So some of the science experiments on the station will actually be brought over into Cygnus or performed on Cygnus instead of being performed on board the science racks in these various modules on board the International Space Station. And that's too, really demonstrating the versatility that's sort of built into the Cygnus design. You know, it's not a vehicle that can bring stuff back, but it's a vehicle that can bring a lot of stuff up and then serve as an additional science platform while up there. So Cygnus really showing its worth in these contracts as well. So yes, and Joshua asking, will we be live the whole launch until they reach orbit? Yes, we will. It is a relatively quick ascent for the Antares rocket. The first stage fires for about 4 minutes. There's about a minute-long coast, and then about a 2-ish minute-long burn of the solid propellant second stage, which inserts the Cygnus vehicle into its preliminary orbit to head off to rendezvous with the International Space Station. So yes, we will be live through a good orbit insertion. Liftoff is currently timed for 9:38. And hang on 1 second for me. 9:38 and 45 seconds is the launch target right now, and there is a 5-minute launch window that they have today to get off the ground. So we will be with you until orbit insertion. Yes. And Rough Riders Show, thanks so much for the $5, saying Christy is a trooper. Will I be out for GPS tomorrow? Thanks for all the NASA Spaceflight team for the great work. And yes, the NASA Spaceflight team will definitely be at GPS tomorrow. Myself, Thomas, and Julia will all be present for GPS, as well as a new team member who will be joining us for the first time. Tomorrow, we'll wait to reveal the identity of that person until the event actually happens. But yes, we will have full coverage of the GPS mission tomorrow, and then if they try Starlink as well, 11 hours later, we will be there for that as well. So thank you so much for the super chat, Rough Riders. Really appreciate it. And a shout out to all of our members and our channel members as well for all of the support that you give us, and to everyone watching the feed, just simply watching the feed. And I know that little video, that little ad at the beginning is always annoying, and I love to hit the skip button as well. But just note that even when you watch those ads and hit the skip button, you are helping us, and you are contributing. So thank you truly to everyone who is watching, and for everyone supporting us today. So the team, as is usual for Northrop Grumman, is very, very talkative and very, very chatty, which is good. But they are just working through their, but they are really just working through their procedures right now, getting everything in line for a anticipated liftoff coming up here in just about 20 minutes. So.
And Chris, if you ever want to listen to a countdown out for a minute, just let me know and I can type it in.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. All right, so they are, like I said, continuing to step. Sorry if I sound a little disjointed. I'm trying to listen to the ComNet in my ear as well. So I do apologize if I do sound a little bit halty in my in talking tonight. Thank you. I'm just trying to listen to various things. So a good question here on visibility from Robert Braddock, asking if it will be visible from the South Carolina coast. The answer is yes. Actually, the Carolinas look like they're going to be getting the best viewing options here based on where a line of cloud seems to be from New York City down across Maryland and the DC area. But yes, South Carolina, you should be able to see it. So go outside after liftoff, probably about 2.5 minutes after liftoff, and look northeast if you're in coastal Carolina. That should be right around when you'd be able to see it right there. So we do have a built-in hold that will take them down to roughly, I believe the Antares uses comes out of its built-in hold at about the 4-minute mark, and then counts down from there in terminal count to its eventual liftoff point, because they do have a hold period, and they do have a 5-minute long window with the Antares in which they can launch, and the vehicle can still get Cygnus into the correct orbital plane with enough reserve in Cygnus's propellant tanks for it to do the proper phasing to get back into proper alignment. Yes, they will be doing those final pulls and releasing the hold, and then we will have that final countdown there. Dougal, question there from Dougal. And yeah, Rob, I think I hear what you're asking. Will this be 3 for 3 in terms of aborts in the past 24 hours? I think everyone agrees when I say we very much hope not. We hope Antares is the one that breaks the streak here and gets off the ground nice and safely and on time today. So yes, if you've got any questions, keep on throwing them up in chat, and remember to tag us at NASASpaceflight. It makes it easier on our end to find questions that way. So please tag at NASASpaceflight in those chats for us. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, I'm Chris Gebhardt. I am the assistant managing editor of NASASpaceflight.com. What you are watching is the feed from NASA, but we at NSF like to do our own commentary and like to engage and answer questions about the various missions as they're taking off. And unfortunately, due to COVID-19 restrictions, we were not able to have any one of our team members physically present at the Mid-Atlantic Spaceport for this mission. So we figured we would bring it to you remotely. And I see some other people asking, where's the rest of the team? The rest of the team would be asleep, preparing for the busy salvo of everything else that we have going on here in the next couple of days. So here we go at 16 minutes to go until liftoff. We have a question here from Ben Strickland, who is asking, is this the same configuration of Antares? Oh, that was weird. I pressed it to push it live, but it didn't go. The question from Ben is this the same rocket configuration as the Cygnus that had the RUD? So the Cygnus mission that had the rapid unscheduled disassembly when an engine failed shortly after liftoff in 2014. In basic sense, yes. It's still a RP1 kerosene and liquid oxygen first stage, and a solid propellant caster XL upper stage, or caster booster upper stage. But after that specific RUD that you're talking about there, Ben, they actually changed out the engines. They went away from the AJ26 engines that they had been using and moved over to the RD181 engines. And they have since done some strengthening of the Antares first stage booster so that those RD181 engines don't have to throttle down during max Q, that the vehicle can take all of those loads as it heads uphill. And they've also enlarged and refined a little bit the Caster XL upper stage as well. So this Antares is known as the Antares 230 Plus variant, whereas it was the Antares, it was one of the Antares 100 series variants that experienced that that RUD, that end of mission there in October of 2014. All right. And they are confirming over the net right now that fueling is complete and good, and no adjustment to the fuel load is needed prior to liftoff today. So again, if you've got those questions, keep them coming on in. Yes. So with a wonderful name, Delta 4 KSP asking if we are still a go. And the answer to that is yes. Hang on one second for me. They are holding at T-minus 11 minutes.
Again, we're going to go ahead and implement a hold.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
At T-minus 11 minutes. That will be CDT hold time of 012745. TD, you copy?
TD copies all.
And admin, you copy?
Okay, so
correct. Hold number 1 on your
matrix. So they are holding at T-minus 11 minutes. There is a 5-minute window.
Hold. And prop 2, can I get status on step 383?
Okay, so it sounds like a console operator accidentally selected the wrong button, and they are holding
on countdown 1. We are working an issue.
So they are holding at T-minus 11 minutes because
we're in talks with admin currently.
An incorrect button was pushed.
LCTD on countdown 1. Range is green for wind drifted debris and toxic for the whole window.
All right, copy that. TD, we're going to go ahead and implement our hold at T-minus 11 regardless.
TD copies all.
Okay, so we have a new
Please advise for the pickup time for the clock.
Yeah, Wilco. Our resume time will be 013244. How copy?
TD copies 013244 Zulu.
That's a good readback. Okay, launch team, we are going to go ahead and hold the clock at T-minus 11 minutes. We have not proceeded with our poll with final countdown, working a couple of late issues here.
Okay, so an incorrect button
Cygnus
was pushed.
put
So
themselves in launch
it
mode.
sounded like there, and again,
So
I was
they'll
listening
report
to
back
Tom
on that, and we're
while
also in our helium
answering
topping
questions
at this
here.
time. and we'll get
I might
additional
not have
status
this
out
100%
here
correct, but what it
as it
sounds
becomes
like
available.
is they were going through a standard series of checks to determine if they needed to adjust the
And
fuel
as you
load
heard from the launch
inside of the
control
Antares
team at the
first
range
stage.
control center in
The
Wallops,
answer
we're
was
going to go
no,
into
they do not
a
need to
hold
perform
at T-minus
a
11
fuel
minutes, just
adjustment.
about
It
40
appears
seconds
that the
from
wrong
now,
button was selected,
as they evaluate
which
wind direction
triggered a call to hold the
that
countdown
would come
at
into play in the unlikely
11
event of a
minutes.
launch accident that would take toxic fuel into the wrong direction.
But what they're
personnel
saying is that
working
they
at
have
the Wallops
commanded the Cygnus
flight
spacecraft
facility
to put itself into launch configuration that eliminates a step so that if they can recover from this, and again, they only have 5 minutes, it's a 5-minute launch window.
Just quickly confirm they're going for the very end of the window now. So it is 1:43:44 UTC, which is 9:44 43:44 Eastern. Excuse me. That's 9:43:44 Eastern is the new target T0.
Okay, there we go. 9:43. Okay, say that for me once again, Michael.
9:43:44 Eastern.
9:43:44. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Which is 1 second less than a full 5 minutes.
Yes. So, yeah. So, an unfortunate last-minute hold, but a hold nonetheless. Again, we'll see if they say anything over the commnet. They have gone very, very quiet, indicating and just basically said that they will come back when there is something to say. So 9:43:44 EDT, which would be 1:43:44 UTC, is the new launch time. That is basically the end of the window. So need to pick up. So basically, they need to pick up here by 21:32:44 EDT in order to make the end of the window here. Sorry, doing math on the fly while trying to type out updates here. But yes, so as we wait to hear what this outcome will. Hang on, they're talking now. Michael, can we bring that up? Oh, okay. Okay, so no resolution there. They were just confirming that Cygnus has indeed been placed into launch configuration and is stable.
Go ahead, CMD.
Arash, super chat, $10 super
nominal.
chat. Thank you so much.
Okay, copy that. We'll go ahead and check 387
Sorry, I couldn't do more,
complete.
but no, you. Thank you so much for what you have done. And we're going to pause right now. They are going to poll. They're going to poll go no go, and they expect to get some goal pending. So I'm going to shut up.
Launch team LC countdown 1. I do want to go ahead and get our poll to proceed with our final countdown started here. I understand we might get some go pendings, and I know that both prop lead and GC are off working some issues right now. But I want to get goes or go pendings on our poll to proceed with final countdown. Our planned pickup time is at 013244. And that's in just over 2 minutes. GSO?
GSO, go.
RSO?
RSO's go.
TD?
TD is go.
Stage 1?
Standby LC.
MES1?
MES1 is go.
ACE?
ACE is go.
All right,
Mars?
and that poll that you
Mars
just
is go.
heard there.
And everybody else can stand by.
In a bunch of consoles saying they were go, but the first stage console, the boosters, saying standby and not giving an answer.
Just under 2 minutes left before the countdown would need
okay, hang on.
to reach the end of tonight's 5-minute launch window. Standing by for further.
So 2 minutes left to resume with that call.
Yeah. It's like they will.
In just over a minute here, again, our new target T0 time will occur at 014344 UTC. That's 014344.
Okay, so what
UTC.
it sounds like there is that they are going to resume from T-minus 11
LC.
minutes and count down as far as they can
Yeah, be
while
advised,
trying
we're going
to
to delay
resolve
start
the
of engine
issue.
evac until I give you direction to do so.
Copy that.
Oh, stage 1 is go. Go for... Okay, hang on. Stage 1 is go. That was the one that had the issue, so let's hear what they say now.
LC stage 1 is go.
Okay, copy. I've got stage 1 go.
Standing by for the resumption of the countdown to reach the end of the launch window with the new T0 time for liftoff at 8:44 p.m. Central Time. Now we're hearing that the reason for this brief delay is a boat out in the range. The range believes it will be clear just a moment or two from now.
So boat in the range, that call right there.
Okay, I want to complete our poll to proceed with final countdown. Prop
Wait,
lead,
what?
countdown 1.
They said the delay was because of a boat
Prop
in the
lead
range.
go pending 1914 reading dry.
Copy that, prop lead. GC. Copy that. CMD.
CMD is go.
LD.
LD is go.
Okay,
NG.
so go to proceed
In
and
honor of
go for
Kalpana
launch.
Chawla, who inspired
at
millions
the
of people as the first
very
woman of Indian
end of
descent
the
to fly into
window.
space, Northrop Grumman is go.
Copy that. We
But
are going to proceed with final
This also
countdown.
is interesting because they
Ops
did
2,
not
you're
call
go
the
for
hold
step 389.
because of
Start
a
engine evac.
boat in the range. They
LC
said
Ops 2.
wrong button selected.
Engine
but then
evacuation started.
I'm
The range
seeing
now.
what you're seeing too, Michael, that there is a that they're saying it's a wayward boat now, so I'm not sure.
They said the boat is expected to be clear within 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah. I got you. I'm just trying to reconcile what they were saying earlier over the net about why they held because a wrong button was pressed, but then they're saying it was held because of a wayward boat. Anyway, the point being, go for launch at the end of the window, which is just probably I think that phrase "point being" is pretty good for the sequence of missions that we've been in. As we count down here toward the new launch time for the Antares, thank you so much, Ethan, for the $5 super chat. Very, very much appreciated. Moldy Space Food Industries with another $2 super chat, saying, "I super chat so much out of ad blocker guilt." I see. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate it, Moldy Space Industries. And Brent with another $10 super chat saying, "Thanks, you guys are live stream machines." We try to be. DOS has trained us very, very well to be good live stream machines over here. So a lot of credit there to DOS for helping us out. All right. All right, and I do see your note that the countdown audio is slightly delayed for people who are for everything that is viewing. I will definitely take that into account as we launch, and I will just
be in real time.
Because that's what I was just going to say. Is I'll compensate by switching over to the NSF cloud.
Yeah, that's please.
Yeah. So. Yeah, so I will definitely switch over
T-minus
to
8
that
minutes and counting.
Once we are a bit closer to liftoff here. A good.
Chris, you need to be listening through NSF Cloud now, or else it does not work.
Say that again, Michael?
You need to be listening through NSF Cloud now, or you will not be able to properly communicate over the thing. Because you're still talking over it while you call out coming on stream.
Okay, is it a clean feed with no NASA commentary, or no?
I am muting it on and off when they're talking.
Okay.
I have it on
the east coast of South America.
Okay, I just won't have access to my ComNet, so But anyway, a good question here from Christian saying, so this is NG's third Cygnus mission under CRS Phase 2, but SpaceX has yet to launch a Phase 2 contract. The first will be SpaceX CRS-21 in November. What's the difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2? Good questions. Yeah, so SpaceX's first CRS-2 contracted flight will be the CRS-21 mission in November of this year. That they plan to launch from Pad 39A on the new Dragon model. For SpaceX, that's the big difference for the CRS-2 contract. It's the switch from the cargo-only Dragon, or Dragon version 1, to Dragon 2, which is the same version that flies crew, but they just configure it to carry cargo instead.
Can you confirm the 395 VTSO activation verified?
Copy that. Check 395, Ops 2, Step 396. Initialize ground ordnance power supplies.
LC Ops 2. Ground ordnance power supplies initialized.
Ground ordnance power supplies nominal.
Copy all. Check 396 and 397.
T-minus 6 minutes and counting.
To the Cygnus portion of that question, though, in terms of the differences between Phase 1 and Phase 2, there really weren't any, because Northrop Grumman and Orbital ATK, basically when they knew they were going to bid Cygnus for CRS-2 and they knew what the requirements were going to be, they started making those changes to some of the CRS-1 flights. So, for example, for Cygnus, one of the requirements for the CRS-2 round of contracts was that they be able to do late load of payload at the pad 24 hours before liftoff. So they changed the payload fairing configuration to have a little pop top so that they can get inside the fairing and get into Cygnus while it's outside at the launch pad. But they actually started flying that on the CRS-1 round of contracts because they got them ready early. So Northrop really had this nice, very phased approach, although they did, however, offer a pressurized,
countdown 1, Step 399. Here go to initiate engine priming.
LC Ops 2, engine priming started.
Ops 1, you go to transfer avionics to internal power.
LC Ops 1, avionics internal power on. Standby 5.
So admittedly, I lost my train of thought there. Northrop Grumman did this, did a phase-in approach for between CRS-1 and CRS-2, but they did also offer a external cargo-only variant of Cygnus for CRS-2 that NASA has not yet opted for. So that's the main difference between the two. Right there. Future Martian 97, another regular for our streams with a $10 super chat saying, come on, let's launch today. I think that is a sentiment we all agree with here, especially as we head down now 3 minutes, 54 seconds and counting until liftoff here of the Antares. Really quickly here, David Wiggums, for the super chat. Thanks so much for the hard work and excellent commentary. Thank you so much for your support, David. It really, really super is.
We have priming verified. Check step 407 complete.
And I see a lot of other questions that we're going to answer about some
and
other
Terry's
activity
soon
that's coming up
to create a artificial dawn
coming up
on a night in which
sequence.
there's a full moon overhead.
Sorry, I see other questions that are being asked here about the other launches that are coming up in the sequence here, and I will get to those right now. I just want to keep the focus on Antares. I just want to keep it on Antares until they have lifted up, but I do see those other questions, and we'll get to them. And if you have any questions about Antares, about how the vehicle gets to orbit, how solid propellant upper stages perform orbit insertions and things like that, feel free to go ahead and ask. Just make sure to tag us at NASASpaceflight in our chat queue. That way we can...
This LC on countdown 1. Abort. We will be proceeding with abort safing 8-9. At the abort safing 8-9.
And just like that, We
And as you heard, we have an abort, no launch tonight.
Yes, so they have had an abort. Keep the audio up so we can hear what caused the scrub, Michael. For
the
that,
launch was
so that
scrubbed
would be
at the T-minus 2-minute 21-second mark.
Your go to disable on Alpha 3, disable using no embedded data stream.
And data stream is suspended.
And Core 1 direct, use NOIA to restart their MS session, report when complete.
In work.
Copy and work. As that's proceeding, let's press with abort safing 7, step Alpha 6, Ops 1, disable your local launch enable button, and verify indicator extinguished.
LC Ops 1, launch enable removed.
And GSO step Alpha 7, disable your local launch enable button at failsafe panel and verify local indicator extinguished.
GSO launch enable removed.
Copy that. Ops 1, step Alpha 8, verify removal of master global launch enable.
Removal of master global launch enable verified.
Copy that. Ops 1 and Alpha 9, deactivate your arm enable at the failsafe panel.
Arm enable key rotated and arm enable no longer illuminated.
Okay, roger that.
To recap,
MES2, step Alpha 10, report engine priming status.
the Antares rocket is in the process of being safed after the launch was scrubbed at the T-minus 2-minute 21-second mark for reasons that we're standing by to find out from the Range Control Center at Wallops. This came after a brief hold in the countdown to allow a boat to clear from the range. The countdown had been proceeding normally otherwise, so we're standing by for further words from Wallops. Assuming a 24-hour recycle.
Steps A11 and 12 are not required. A100 through 104 are required.
Okay, MES2, I copy that. And specific to Alpha 10, we have priming initiated. Can you verify if that's complete?
All right. So as we as they wait to hear when a turnaround could be attempted here and exactly what kicked them out of the countdown and triggered the
assuming a 24-hour reset.
2 minutes 13 seconds. We will wait to hear when they can try again. Right now, it is an assumption that they could try tomorrow. That would be the earliest possible that they could go on a 24-hour recycle. But again, we'll wait to hear exactly from that. Mr. Showtime with the $2 super set. 2020 got us again. No, I know. I felt that as soon as I heard the word abort. I just internally, I was like, But Grant, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Christian Bradley Hubbs, thanks so much for the new membership.
And the vehicle and ground ODMs and verify ODM safe.
Sorry, Chris, I know I keep cutting you off. I'm just trying to
I know.
The call out's going to be the one.
Yeah, no. Yes, entirely, yeah. While we're waiting for that, here's a sentiment I think we can all agree from Parker. Came with a super chat. This is just a little residual from Scrubtember. Here's to a good Orbit-tober. I think we can all hope for that. Although day one certainly didn't get off to a stellar start, pun intended, because it's 10 p.m. where I am, and I've been up for a while, so puns are happening now. Yes, but there were some other questions that I will take about some other missions while we wait to hear word from Northrop Grumman. Again, the audio might cut in very quickly. Michael is in the background, making sure that we can hear the callouts.
Yeah,
like that.
Stage 2 ignition and Aura SNA safe. Flight computer ODM safe. Stage 1 controller ODM safe. Ground ODMs are safe.
Copy all there. Like when we check Alpha.
Yeah, because right now what you're hearing is the steps to check to back out of the countdown and safe the vehicle and get it ready for detanking. Which brings us to one of our questions from Joshua, which is how long does it take for a rocket to detank? And the answer to that is that it takes a lot less time to detank a vehicle than it does to actually tank it, because when you're tanking it, you're trying to fight against gravity, you're pumping everything into the vehicle. Whereas to drain it, you just kind of have to open the fill and drain valves and let gravity do its thing. Typically, if it takes about an hour to fuel a vehicle, you could get it empty in anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. Depending, some vehicles also you have to consider the rate at which you do tank for thermal stress on the outside of the vehicle too. So just because it could go that fast doesn't necessarily mean it does, but generally speaking, it is significantly less time to detank a vehicle than it is to tank it. Now, this brings us to some of our other questions that we can now add Antares into as well. Mike Smith was wanting to know any word on when SpaceX will retry. Yes, the Starlink mission that was earlier today has been rescheduled for Saturday morning, the 3rd of October at 8:37, 8:38, something like that, in the morning, which places it just 11 hours after the question that Kelsey is asking, isn't there another a Falcon 9 launch like GPS? The answer to that is yes. GPS is scheduled to go tomorrow at roughly 9:45, 9:43 in the evening local time here in Florida, which would translate to 1:43 UTC time on the 3rd of October. That is for the GPS launch, and that'll be followed 11 hours later by the Starlink mission from 39A. So that is the launch schedule that we have now. We do not, as Justin is asking here, Justin Rowland is asking, we do not have any word yet on when the Delta IV Heavy will try again. As Tori Bruno confirmed, and ULA confirmed through a sequence of tweets, basically what happened last night with the Delta is that the hydrogen burn-off ROFEs, the big sparklers at the base of the rocket, fired as intended at T-minus 14.5 seconds. The release of hydrogen, the hydrogen dump out of the RS-68A engines occurred at T-minus 10 seconds as anticipated. The ROFEs burned off some of that hydrogen that got dumped out, and that's why we saw some flames at the base of the vehicle, but the abort was actually tripped prior to the ignition start command of the engines. And the RS-68A engines, as Tori Bruno and ULA elaborated on social media today, actually have ROFEs inside of them that serve as the ignition source. So that's what created some of the confusion yesterday, where Tori said the ROFEs didn't light, and everyone had seen them light, but it was the engine ROFEs he was talking about, not the hydrogen burn-off system. But unfortunately, we don't know how long of a recycle it's going to take, and to my knowledge, Michael, ULA has not said what the issue was yet, correct?
No new estimate even. So several days probably. Yeah.
I mean, what we had heard prior going in is that if the ROFEs light, it's 7 days. We now don't really know if that's engine ROFEs or ROFEs in general. So the clearest picture that we have of the Delta's timeline is that the 45th is not issuing weather forecasts for it, which means that no date has been requested by United Launch Alliance for an additional attempt within the next 4 days at this point. So yes, and then Joshua also asking here when our next live stream will be. That will be tomorrow evening for the launch of the GPS-3 satellite on the Falcon 9, scheduled out of Florida at 9:43 p.m. tomorrow, 1:43 UTC on the 3rd of October. Another good question here, another good sequence of questions here. I love when you all ask questions that meld so nicely together. So Owen wants to know. So actually, Dino wants to know what do they do with the rest of the LOX and fuel, the liquid oxygen and RP1? So after it's drained out of the, after this is drained out of Antares
the problem
tanks.
Was attributed to a piece of ground support equipment, not the rocket itself, not Antares, not Cygnus, but a piece of ground support equipment. Engineers at Wallops are working to verify as they look at the data and determine whether or not we in fact will make another attempt tomorrow night, as is hoped.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. There is some weird conspiracy happening between the ground support equipment across all. I'm sorry, I just have to laugh at this point because it is kind of comical in a weird way, and I have to laugh to get that out of my system. To then say the very serious and important part where, yes, it is humorous that all of these things are aligning together with ground support equipment malfunctioning at the last second in the countdown. But it is also very, very important to hammer home that, and all of you know this, but it's very important to hammer home that these aborts are being called because these pieces of equipment on the ground are vital. And as frustrating as it can be when all of these things seemingly line up and stack up against us, it is just very important to always remember that no matter how humorous because you want to cry or dejected you might be or things like that, especially when you travel to one of these launches, this is actually the system working as it's supposed to do, and catching these faults in the GSE, the ground support equipment, and stopping the count so that they can be fixed. So just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that my laughter was not any moment of disrespect. It was just, that's pretty much the only reaction I could have in that moment to hearing it. But anyway, going to keep taking your questions here, because as we wait to hear or see when NASA will end their broadcast, I assume NASA at this point is waiting to hear when they will try again to launch, which could be as early as tomorrow. I believe I missed exactly what Rob Navia said, but I would assume just by the backing up of everything that it would be roughly it would be roughly 9:20 or 9:15 ish tomorrow Eastern time. But anyway, what happens to all that LOX, the rest of the LOX and the RP1 fuel? It gets drained from the Antares and it goes back into the propellant holding tanks near the pad 0A at Wallops, which leads wonderfully into a question that Owen had. Can they reuse the fuel after they detank? And yes, they can. Once that fuel is taken out of Antares and put back into the storage tanks at the pad, it will, if they need to top off the pad tanks, they will. And if they do not, that same LOX and RP1 could flow right back into Antares when it makes its next attempt. Going back over to some super chats here.
T-minus 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And we are currently investigating what the cause of that automated abort is, and we'll report out when that's available. Okay, we'll proceed now with our post-LO2 abort reconfiguration.
Okay. So basically saying there that they are still investigating what caused it. Rob Navius from NASA said that they had talked about it being a piece of ground support equipment, but it looks like the Northrop teams are still trying to figure out exactly what it was within the ground systems that tripped the abort here. Of Antares at T-minus 2 minutes 40 seconds. T-minus 2 minutes 40 seconds is when they just said over the net that the abort is called. So we'll keep taking some of your questions, and we'll stick on with this until we see if they can report the anomaly or report what the anomaly actually was. But Grant Hugstat, thanks so much for the $2 super chat. Really, really appreciate it. Tauri, thanks so much for the membership. And I just, everyone, thank you so much. When we read out these super chats and when we read this out, it can kind of sound sometimes like we're saying the same thing, but we really mean truly every single thank you for every amount of support that's given, and not just support through super chats or channel memberships, but also just everyone watching that little ad at the beginning helps us and helps us be able to invest in our people and invest in our ability to bring you not just live streams like this, where we're piggybacking off of a NASA feed, but also the live on the ground ones from Boca Chica, Texas, and Florida, and wherever the team may travel. So thank you so much to Jesse and to Mediocre Engineering. I love the name, Mediocre Engineering. The rockets are waiting for Tim Dodd to come back. Yes, I think I saw that Tim Dodd is on vacation, so clearly they don't like that. And Ben saying, good night, y'all. See you tomorrow night. Indeed. Thanks for the $5 there. And yes, we will see you tomorrow night. Bent there for GPS. We're going to keep sticking around here as well and answering some more questions. So if you have any questions about Antares, about how it works, about what happened tonight, about how Antares and Falcon 9 might be headed out at roughly the same time tomorrow evening. Any questions like that that you have, go ahead and ask them, and we will do our best to get them answered here again as they continue to try to figure out what the issue was that tripped the abort there at T-minus 2 minutes 40 seconds. Yes. So, okay. So just grabbing a couple more questions here. Yes. So the Kerbal King. So I figured this question was going to come up, and I'm glad it got asked. How can 2 launches happen from the Cape and the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport? Yeah. So the tricky part with launches out of Cape Canaveral that go northeast is that most of those missions that go northeast require the Bermuda tracking station. As is true with launches out of Wallops. Every launch out of Wallops more or less needs the Bermuda tracking station as well, especially the Antares rocket because of the trajectory that it flies and its need to have ground-based communication. Even though it could communicate with TDRS, it's much more efficient to communicate with the ground. So Antares definitely needs Bermuda. But here's the thing with GPS missions. Going northeast out of Florida, they go into 55-degree inclination orbits, which is higher than that of Starlink and higher than that of the International Space Station, which means they're actually closer to the US coastline. So if you go back and listen to the SpaceX webcasts for the last GPS mission, you can hear their callouts as they head uphill and they're acquiring new stations downrange. And they say acquisition of signal, Maryland. Acquisition of signal.
So at this time in Step Alpha 42, the intention for our next launch attempt is to perform a recycle and come back and do this again in 24 hours. That's all contingent on understanding what caused the abort, but all of our pad recovery efforts will be based off the assumption that we're coming back in 24 hours. There will be no cargo refresh that's required at this time. And again, so our pad recovery effort should be assuming that we do not have a cargo refresh at this time. We'll check Step Alpha 42 complete.
All right, and there we go. So you can hear they're still having trouble there figuring out exactly what it is that triggered the abort, which will be very obviously important to figuring out the needed corrective action there. But they are setting up for a 24-hour recycle and turnaround. And basically what they were saying there is, we don't know from a technical what caused the abort standpoint if we'll actually be able to launch tomorrow. But from a fuel perspective, from a pad perspective, from a rocket perspective, and a Cygnus perspective, let's go ahead and start working down that path and working under that assumption that they'll try again tomorrow, so that if the issue is something that's easily fixed, you haven't eliminated a launch opportunity by accident because you didn't prepare for it. So that's what we've been hearing them saying there. One quick second here. But anyway, so this now really goes back to the question that Kerbal King asked that we were in the middle of answering here, is you hear the GPS missions calling out acquisition of signal Maryland, acquisition of signal New Hampshire. Now, they also call out acquisition of signal Bermuda, but what that indicates is that they don't actually need the Bermuda tracking station for a GPS mission. They could use Maryland and New Hampshire if they have them. And that's how you get 2 rockets launching, one from Wallops going southeast and one from the Cape going northeast at virtually the same time as one another, but not actually conflicting with one another. But a great question there, Kerbal King. And Nathan Savage with a very similar question there. If it goes in 24 hours, wouldn't that be very close to the time of GPS? Yes. They will actually swap orders, though, with the Cygnus move to tomorrow, because the Cygnus window moves about 25 minutes earlier each day, and the GPS window moves a couple of minutes earlier each day. So now Cygnus is actually leapfrogging over GPS. So Cygnus will go first at roughly 9:20, 9:15 tomorrow. And then GPS will follow at 9:43 from Pad 40. Again, that's the plan. We've talked a lot about the plans for the last week, and we all know how that has worked out for us. So, but that would right now appear to be the plan that everyone is working toward, with the huge caveat that we don't know if Cygnus is going to be able to do it yet, because they haven't quite figured out what tripped the abort just yet. So we'll go ahead and, Michael, I think I'll take a couple more questions here, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up, since it doesn't necessarily sound like they're going to come to a decision here on what happened, and we know they're going to attempt to recycle for tomorrow. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, that sounds good. And we have to end when NASA ends anyway, because we don't have a camera there.
No, that too. So yes. So Benjamin is asking here, what's the maximum payload that can be launched out of Wallops? So that's going to be highly dependent on the rocket. For Antares, we're seeing Antares can take roughly 8,500 pounds, 3,900 kilograms up to station on the Antares from Wallops, but the Electron from Rocket Lab could only take about 500 kilograms into low Earth orbit. And then Wallops actually has a lot of sounding rockets that they launch that don't even get orbital. So that question is totally dependent on which vehicle you're going on. But Antares and soon-to-be Electron are the two major operational vehicles out of Wallops right now. And that's about the max that they can do. About 8,300 kilograms for Antares and about 500 kilograms for the Electron. And Towery with the $5 super chat. Thanks so much. You just became a member too. I recognized the name from earlier in the stream. Thanks so much for the additional support, saying I didn't know this mission was named after astronaut Kalpana Chawla, a hero of mine. Yes, a hero to many people, and a wonderful name choice for this mission, bringing up a bunch of scientific experiments up to the International Space Station. Truly wonderful way to honor Kalpana and everything that she stands for, and the inspiration that she still is today. Okay, gonna grab a couple of questions here, and then we'll look to wrap up. So just let me grab a couple real quick. So another couple of questions here that match perfectly. So Rocket Enthusiast is asking, what propellants and gases does the Antares and the Cygnus use? So the Antares first stage uses RP1 kerosene and liquid oxygen to feed its two RD-181 liquid-fueled main engines. It then hands off to a solid propellant upper stage, which, sorry, I forgot to hit the button to push that live. So that's Rocket Enthusiast's question about the propellants that it uses. Cygnus itself, the Cygnus spacecraft uses hang on 1 second for me, I'm getting there. Michael, do you know off the top of your head what Cygnus uses as its propellant?
I would assume some sort of hypergolic, but I'm not positive, I must admit.
Yes, there it is. It took me a minute to find it in the document. I didn't know if you knew it off the top of your head. It uses hydrazine and nitrogen tetroxide for the Cygnus craft itself. Yes. There's always different things it can be, like, because hypergol is sort of the catch-all term that we use for them, but then there are different kinds of hypergol. So I really wanted to find the actual ones for you, because this leads directly into Lucas's question: what is the upper stage on the Antares? and things like that. So the Antares upper stage is the solid propellant caster XL stage. So a lot of bang for your buck when you ignite that. And a lot of and a lot of care has to go into understanding exactly how hot that propellant is going to burn and exactly how much propellant you have in it. Because unlike liquid-fueled upper stages for orbit insertion that can simply switch their engine off when they reach the desired horizontal and vertical velocity markers to reach their orbit insertion points, you can't turn off a solid propellant upper stage once it ignites. So you have to know exactly how hot it's going to burn, exactly how much propellant you've got in there, the exact, down to the excruciating small detail, mass of the entire vehicle and payload and how much mass you're shedding from the vehicle, but then also the mass of the Cygnus spacecraft itself to good precision. And then what they do is, this is really, really cool, and we're going to have a feature on it soon on NASASpaceflight, actually, on our new site. But basically what they do is they do a series of S-curve maneuvers with the solid propellant upper stage to bleed off energy so that they time the burnout of the booster perfectly to that moment where your payload is going to be inside of the allowable perigee and apogee limits for a given mission. And that's how they do it with the solid propellant second stage. Much more on that. A huge deep dive that I've been working on that will be out probably next week, actually, for how solid stages do that. And, I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up here, Michael, for the night. I don't see any more outstanding questions that we haven't asked yet, that haven't been asked and that we haven't answered. So thank you all for joining. Popsicle, thanks so much for the $5 super chat. You got it. Or the $50 super chat. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I misread that at first. The $50 super chat. Thank you so much. That means a lot to all of us here. And to everyone who watched, thank you so much for your contribution. By watching. We hope you enjoyed this. We'll be back again tomorrow night live with our camera rig and our team for the GPS launch of the GPS-3 launch on a SpaceX rocket. And we will, of course, wait to see what Northrop Grumman does and if they will be able to try again tomorrow. Thank you so much to everyone. Please, if you haven't already, head on over to NASASpaceflight.com. We've got a wonderful store over there, whether it's a mug for your caffeine of choice or a towel. Of course, I Still Lay Here, I believe is the name of it in our store. We've got a lot of cool stuff, so you can head on over there if you want. But thank you to everyone who joined. And we will hopefully be back tomorrow for not just GPS, but also Antares as well. Stay safe, everyone. Stay healthy. Until next time, I'm Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor of NASA Spaceflight. Thanks so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Water towers fly! Flight downside, speed off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.